All right, everyone. I am going. I am going to probably mute everybody. If that would be possible, that's better. Can everyone still hear me? Give me a thumbs up, I hope. I'm muting everybody just because there's a lot of background noise, people saying hello to each other. I appreciate that very much. But as people start to join, that could become a little bit distracting. I just wanted to take a minute, say thank you. It is great to see so many people sort of in the same place. This has been honestly perhaps the most challenging experience of my career in education, going 18 or 19 years. And all right, I've got to figure out a way to mute everybody as they come in as well. All right, we're going to mute all, and we're going to mute everybody. Not really sure why that keeps happening. If everyone, when they, I'm going to enable the chat feature on the side, just to give a little bit. All right. That should. All right, that settles that. Everyone, I hope could still hear me. So I'm gonna go through this as I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna go through this as best I can. If there are questions, there is a chat feature on the right side. If you have questions, some people have already added some things in. I will do my best to answer them when we're done. I do have a few things that I'd like to go through for everybody, but I'm sure there are a lot of questions that people may have, and I'll do my best to answer them. Right now, I'm going to share kind of everything that I know about where we are today, with the understanding that it's March 24th. Things could change by the end of March 24th. Things have been changing very fluidly. Things have been kind of adjusting on a day-to-day basis, and we've done our best to try and adjust with them. Initially, our plan when we left on March 6th was to plan for 3 weeks. The reality is that at the end of this week, there's a very good possibility that we could be planning for longer than that. And I share that now because there are some folks out there that have stated that it's actually not beyond the realm of possibility, but it could be the rest of the school year. We're not there yet, and we're not going to be there yet, but we are going to plan for us. Right now, we're planning like it's these 3 weeks, and there's a good possibility at the end of this week there'll be an announcement that it could be a couple of weeks beyond that. We have to change, we need to adapt, and we are right now as a faculty working on different ways for us to reach out both real time and asynchronously, meaning, posting things that people can work on individually and things that people can work on when they're at home, and engaging with us in ways just like this. I do think that there will be a point where we may have to start considering ways to deliver actual instruction and determine what it is that our goals are going to be by the end of the year. At the same time, um, we need to realize that there are a lot of different situations out there. There are different situations for families. There are different situations for how people engage with schoolwork. There may be a family situations that we need to keep in mind. And with different students means there could be different schedules. There are different schedules that need to be kept by people who are on our faculty. And so we need to be really mindful of some of the different things that people bring to the table in terms of what their real-time responsibilities could be. We have had some questions reach out about report cards and grades and the third quarter and the fourth quarter and end of year and seniors. This is what we are also going to have to look at right now, is being very flexible with that. We have a good chunk of grades that have been established for the first couple of terms. We have some people that have experienced some different sort of things with standards-based grading, meaning proficiency-based grading. And that might become something that we look at. We might be looking at things like a more robust look at what credit, no credit, and pass-fail, and teachers assigning things that students will have to provide us some background with. And that will come if we're out longer than this initial 3-week period, where there will be some responsibility and an expectation of completion, but with us being very flexible around whatever the different circumstances there are. For students that have, have had some access and some technology issues, I mean, there are a lot of students here right now, but if you are hearing that there are some challenges from some of your friends, reach out to a teacher who can put in what we have as a ticket system, and the tech department has been reaching out to those people individually. We don't want students and faculty emailing the tech guys directly. The ticketing system allows them to keep track of what sort of problems are coming up. So if you're on this call and you're not having any issues, but you have a friend who is, feel free to reach out to a teacher, send an email and say, so-and-so hasn't been able to get on their iPad, or so-and-so doesn't have internet at home. That's important for us to know and to work through. There have been a couple questions that have come up about MCAS. Much was made last week. The federal government announced that there will be no federal requirement to testing. We do not have an answer yet from that on the state level. The expectation is that the state has filed for the waiver from federal requirements, but that doesn't mean that the test has been canceled. So those of you who are sophomores or ninth graders, it doesn't mean the test is canceled. It just means it might be postponed, and we don't know whether that means it'll be given later this year
Federal requirements.
if we're back, or if we are if we're not back. Does that mean it's given in the fall? So we don't know the answers to that yet. I do know that today and tomorrow were the first 2 days of the English test, and obviously we're not giving it on time. My thought, and this is conjecture, this is my opinion, is that if we come back in late April, early May, or even God willing after this 3-week, I think the longer we're out, the greater the possibility that the test gets postponed to next year potentially. If we are in this year, I think they'll make some effort to try and make it happen, but I truthfully don't know. Those of you who are taking APs, AP tests, the College Board has released some guidance. I'm going to be scheduling a student meeting for all students who are taking APs for early next week. I'm going to be working out a time to meet with all of the teachers who are teaching APs to lay out what some of our options are. Right now, what we know is that the AP test, as it existed even 2 weeks ago, no longer exists. It will be a 45-minute test that will be given online, and it will be given online to be administered pretty much anywhere. The students might be able to take it at home. They might be able to take it, you know, in different places. They're not going to have to take it. They're not going to have to take it in school for the same 3-hour with like an hour and a half objective section, or, you know, the way it was traditionally given. Again, we're in the beginning stages of identifying what that means for Uxbridge. The College Board's guidance has been that it will not be tested on anything that the curriculum was not supposed to cover before March. And we have to decide what that really means, because everybody's in different places across the board and across the country. As far as some of the end of school events, there was a rumor going around at the end of last week about the prom has been canceled. It has not yet been canceled. We are going to do everything we can in the next maybe, I would say, 2-3 months. However, I'm not sure who's chatting there on the side, but if you could stop, that'd be great. It's really distracting. Thanks. School is not done for the rest of the year, just to clarify that. As far as the things like the prom, if we are not able to get back by the end of this month, we will have to make some decisions on postponing events. I was on a call last night with a couple of other principals who, some of whom are graduating the same week as ours. We will be taking our guidance right now from the state, from the Board of Health, and there is a very real possibility that things like our end of school year events, graduation included, could be postponed. We do not know that yet. So for people who are speculating that this has been canceled, that has been canceled. As of right now, that is not the case. But if that does in fact come to pass, we will we'll certainly work on planning. I'm just going to add something real quick. You know, I'm doing this for all of you, and I know there are a couple of you thinking that, you know, throwing some comments in the chat is funny. Just stop. You know, I'm going to begin by I should have began by saying this. This has not been a particularly easy time for any of us. And personally speaking, I'm working pretty hard on trying to keep everything afloat. I do know that there are some people who have more challenges than others. And so if there are specific questions that you may have about specific events, right now, we may not have all of those answers. But if you do have some of those questions, I'm happy to answer them as best I can. I do think that for the seniors, in particular, I see there are a lot of seniors on this call. We are going to do everything in our power to make sure that we're able to deliver the things that you come to expect from the end of your senior year. I don't know what that looks like right now. And being that it's, you know, our graduation's scheduled for the last weekend in May. I have a colleague who has a graduation scheduled for May 28th or 9th. They're not sure what they're going to do. So there are a lot of us who are in this boat. But that's essentially where we are at with some of the end of year events. So right now, our hope is our first hope would be that we're back on April 6th or 7th. My expectation is this may extend at least another 2 or 3 weeks beyond that. And if it does return, does extend longer than that, we'll obviously have to adapt and adjust as best we can. There have been some questions about getting access to the building. I know there's some folks who may have some things in the building. Right now, the building is essentially locked down. There have been some pretty in-depth cleaning procedures that have happened there over the last couple of days. I get an update just about every day for what rooms that they're going into and ways that they're sanitizing and sterilizing a lot of the hard surfaces. So for now, the building's off limits. If there are things that are in the building that it turns out folks may need, we'll see where we're at in a couple of weeks. But for now, I think the building is closed to the public, and it's going to stay that way for the foreseeable future. Again, the ideal is being back April 6th or 7th, but I'm not, to be very honest, not particularly hopeful for that. There's also been some question about when we will move from just providing some work that's out there to keep people connected to things that'll actually be graded and assigned. And I could tell you that if we get word that the absence from school is going to extend beyond the April 6th or 7th, there'll be some guidance coming out about that very, very soon. And again, I'm planning for the worst case. You know, I pray every day that there'll be a quicker resolution to that than where we're at. I will say, last thing that I will continue to emphasize, the rules about social distancing that are put in place are put in for a reason. It has been hard for my own children. It's been hard for me. I think it's been hard for a lot of people to stay away and stay apart. But we're seeing some other parts of the country and other parts of the world that did not put these things in place, and they're having some pretty intense spread. There's some thought out there, and I've heard this from some people, well, younger people don't get it. The numbers that I saw yesterday from the Department of Health, about 25 to 30% of the cases in Massachusetts that have been confirmed, to about 200 of the 750 cases that have been confirmed are in people under the age of 30. So people who are saying, well, I'm 17, I can't get this. I'm 24, I can't get this. You can. And a large chunk of the people who are in intensive care are people in their 30s and 40s. So if you were to happen to contract it, you'd be putting your families at risk as well. So that's one of the reasons why we have continued to emphasize this. And our state is doing a better job at this than most other places in the country. We're at about an 8% positive test rate, where, just to give you a comparison, the fatality rate yesterday in Italy was at 9.8%, which sounds like, oh, it means 90% survive, but they have 30 million people infected. That means 3 million people are going to die. That's a significant number. And so I say that maintaining the social distancing that you are doing is really, really important. So I'm going to open the chat up to any questions that people may have. That's all I have from a standpoint of sort of the technicalities of it. But if you have any questions that you'd like to type in, I'll go right through them. I'll answer them as best I can. And if not, I'll do my best to keep people providing some direction as we move forward. Going once, going twice, anything anybody's got. Oh, somebody just shared their screen with me. That should not happen. Sorry. There are, as of right now, a couple questions. One, are spring sports going to be completely canceled? Let's start there. Right now, the advice from the MIAA is that they are working on a solution that would get us started April 27th. And whoever that person is, I'll kick you out of the meeting if it happens again. Thank you. I don't have time or patience for this. Yep, that makes that easy. I'm glad a couple of you think that's funny too. Anyways, as far as spring sports go, April 28th is the desired start date. The guidance that the tournament management committee has provided us is that the seasons would actually be a little bit shorter, and they would all end, I want to say, by June 22nd or so. So there is still a plan to get spring sports going. There are some minimum practice rules that have to be put in place, and so they might have to be waived by the MIA handbook. The last guidance I had was that they are going to try and have a season. I heard from a call this morning there are cases in Uxbridge. I had actually not heard that. I had not heard that there was a confirmed case in Uxbridge. I had heard that the most localized one from us was that there were a couple of people in quarantine in Douglas who had been exposed. There are 2 confirmed cases in Uxbridge. Sorry, I just got a text message while we were sitting here. And there is one in Sutton. I don't know who those people are, and I don't know if they are. That has not been shared with me by the Department of Health. So I know there's 2. How are we going to finish grades? Like I said a little while ago, I think grades are going to go to, if we're out longer, it's going to be really difficult for us to really hold the line on traditional grades per se, and look towards more of a credit, no credit, and what are we asking people to learn and how, and what does that look like on a department by department or course by course basis. Graduating on time, well, if people are still giving an honest effort this year and submitting work and getting things back to teachers and interacting with teachers, and I expect we'll have a more specific plan for students next week, that we will be able to make sure everybody stays on time. The goal will be that we are not going to be casual about retaining kids for next year. There's a good likelihood that if this continues, the reality is the first term of next year is going to be every grade level will be a little different, because if you're a 3rd grader and you were expected to finish a certain number of things by the end of 3rd grade, 4th grade might have to start with some of that. The same thing would have to go for us here. There'll have to be a presumption that things that might have been covered at the end of, say, your biology class that you would need for chemistry might have to be looped into next year, and that's just reality. And that the first quarter could very well be a heavy reinforcement and pickup of whatever happened the year before. But we are not going to be cavalier or draconian in any way about not letting people move forward. Could a Zoom meeting graduation be possible? Who knows? I haven't gotten that far. I'd be really surprised if we're trying to do that virtually. One of my friends is actually trying to plan that. I'd love to know what he's doing with it, but I'd be very surprised if we had that right now. SATs right now, I have not heard anything about the next date. I know the March date was canceled. I don't know if there's going to be any direction. Most of the word that I've heard from the College Board right now has been about AP tests. As we hear things about SATs, I'll make sure that our guidance counselors and our coordinator, I know Ms. Hamlin's somewhere on this call, she has done a phenomenal job of communicating things that she's heard from the College Board with me as the person who's coordinated it here. So as we hear more about SATs, I'll make sure I let that know. Let that be known. Time have to be made up. So here's the guidance from the commissioner. We cannot go past the 185th day of school. Our 185th day of school is June 23rd. Any other time that has to be made up, we've been granted an exemption from. Now, individual school districts, school committees could make the decision to extend beyond June 23rd, but by law, a school year has to end no later than June 30th. My expectation, at least, and my presumption, is that we are not going to be in school beyond June 23rd of this year. It will not carry into next year in terms of time. So folks who are wondering, well, are we gonna have to come back, say August 1st? No, that's not the case. Have I heard anything about Project Lead the Way assessments? I have not. And I have not yet heard about Project Lead the Way. I actually know that there are a couple of folks who were on a call with them yesterday. I have a call with them on Monday or Tuesday of next week. We should be able to provide some guidance there. My guess is if we are providing that test, it's already done online. Oh, there's Mr. Smutak. The Project Lead the Way test is suspended.
Shut up, pussy.
Thanks, Mike Smutak. I think that's what the purpose of my call was on Tuesday, so now I don't have to get on that. Would we potentially go to school over April vacation? Right now, that's not on the table. I don't see that. I don't see that as a real option for a number of reasons, but I have not heard that brought up as of yet. When would seniors end? Right now, our plan is to have you end the same day. Your school year is still scheduled to go until, sorry, I'm just looking at my calendar. I think your senior's last day is something like May 22nd or something like that. I don't see us changing that. As far as MCAS canceled or rescheduled, I think we're waiting on what the rest of the school year looks like. Whether it's going to be rescheduled for this year, next year, or just exempted entirely. I have some questions for the commissioner and the Commonwealth, the department head, about the science one, because kids prepare for specific science all year. To reset that for October is a little bit less realistic than English and math, and suddenly putting on kids that they have to now potentially prep next year is a different question. But I have not yet heard anything about a specific date. I do think that if the longer this goes, the greater the likelihood that there won't be MCAS this year. I don't know that the state has the same capacity as the College Board to offer that as something that can be controlled at home, like the AP tests are planning on. And I think the only other question that somebody had emailed me separately was about for seniors. Again, there are some of you out there about final transcripts and what those are going to look like. That's absolutely something we're working on, because what final grades look like and how we submit all of that, we want to make sure we take care of you as you start making your final decisions about college and submitting things for credit and et cetera, et cetera. Ms. Hamlin, I see that I'm going to unmute you. You had something to add.
I just checked, excuse me, I just checked the SAT administrators website. They have canceled the May 2nd SAT administration and the March 14th makeup, of course, and the March 28th. They'll provide refunds to all students who are registered for May. and whose March test centers were closed, that's many of us here, or who do not receive March scores due to an irregularity. The June ones, they still haven't made a decision on, so they're on. We're not a test center for June, but other places are. And that's all I really know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a chance the school year be canceled and we'd have to repeat the same grade? I actually asked that question of a different superintendent and how they're planning on handling that. There's a lot of research out there that supports that social promotion is there's the retention versus social promotion and everything else. I'll be very honest, I do not foresee a situation where we are canceling the school year like it never happened and everybody's repeating the same grade. We have not had that conversation as a leadership team. We have not had that conversation as a faculty. Assuming that as we start to present opportunities for students to learn online over the rest of this, next interim period of time, and potentially longer, depending on how long this extends. If students are giving us an honest effort, and there's I guess a good faith to engage in what teachers are putting forth, I would be very, very surprised if we're looking at retaining anybody. I think that's, I know that that's something that, again, will be addressed as we look ahead to next year. And as far as the question about will we have to do online school, I think we're looking at a situation where if this absence extends, that some of the work that we have been providing right now as an optional resource is going to become a bit more required. And that's something that we'll be talking about as a faculty in the next couple of days and looking beyond the potential of the April 6th day that was initially thought as being our time back to school. Bless you, whoever that is. And thanks to those of you who've tried to help me out over here. This is, I will say that from a community standpoint, there's an old saying. There's an old saying that resilience rests not on the individual, but on our community or on the community. I will say this, we're in this together. There are a lot of unknowns. There are a ton of questions that we don't have. I have friends that are professors at the higher ed that are quickly transitioning to making everything they're doing online. The reality is that's just not necessarily what we're looking to do. Our goal right now is to stay connected as a community, to stay connected as a school, to try and give some sense of normalcy to everything that we're trying to do and everything that you guys need. I am doing my best, and I know that the teachers are doing their best to stay as connected to everyone as we can. Look, it's an imperfect situation in an imperfect world. We'll do this together. And if things come up, again, I'm going to say, you hear me stating like, hey, look, if it's speculation, it's speculation. If I don't have an answer, I don't have an answer. But if you have a specific question about something, reach out to me, reach out to the teachers. We will get that information out to you. Please don't spread rumors and don't start saying things. And we'll do our best to keeping the information as specifically and as timely as possible. It's not always going to be right at the drop of a hat, but we'll do the best we can. And to you seniors, I'm going to quote the president of my alma mater who reached out to us who are in a reunion year And to those of us who, I have a couple friends who are actually seniors this year, coworkers of mine in my other life. Please don't think that it's not with some degree of sorrow that we're having these messages. This is not the end of a senior year that we expected for you. And we will do our best to make it as real for you as we can. And we'll do our best to hang on to whatever normalcy that we have. Until then, I just want everyone to take care of themselves, take care of each other, reach out if you need help, and remember, we're all in this together. Person by person, class by class, teacher by teacher, student by student. And if there's anything I can do for you or your families, just shoot me a message. We'll do the best we can to get through this. With that, I'm gonna say see you later, and I'll be putting a video of this up so people can reference it later if they weren't able to get on, between 12 and 12:40. Be well, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day and stay safe.